To this video where we're going to be talking about CLINE, how to use it, why I use it more than Cursor, and even a very, very special, never seen before guide on iteration prompting. Let's get straight into it. So first of all, CLINE. What is CLINE? Well, they actually have a website now, cline.bot. Finally, it's been long enough. And apparently they're being used by all of these. I don't know if this is true. I do have some information that Cisco uses Copilot on GitHub, for example. I don't think something like Cisco would be able to use CLINE, so I highly doubt that Cisco is actually using CLINE, but there it is. So what is CLINE? CLINE is a autonomous agent, okay? And it's apparently not just an autonomous agent, but it is just an autonomous agent. It's more than a code generator. It's your partner in streamlining your development workflow. This is all bullshit. It's an autonomous coding agent that can take natural language, like prompting or instructions, and turn it into fully fledged applications. So the first part of this is why CLINE. Now, CLINE, for me, does the best job out of all of the competitors. So we're talking Cursor, Replit, although I haven't used Replit that much, to be honest with you. Claude Desktop, any of these, Windsurf, any of these applications, it does the best job of creating production ready apps. Okay, so applications that you can actually post online. Now for me, although Cursor has proven pretty good in the past, it just needs a little bit too much guidance. I need to keep telling it what to do. It doesn't have this autonomous nature to it as much as something like CLINE. Windsurf, I never really got into Windsurf. People talk a lot about Windsurf. I'm sure it's good. I just don't really use it. The other two here, I wouldn't really recommend using, to be honest with you, although Replit, like I said, I haven't used that much. So for me, it's all about production ready applications. So basically what that means is you take a prompt, right? So natural language, words on a page, and you turn that into something that you can actually launch on a website or, yeah, launch on a website, basically, right? So for me, CLINE has been the best at this, okay? You don't need to guide it as much. You don't need to say, okay, now you've done that, do this, or whatever it might be. Instead, you just leave it on what I like to call YOLO mode and just let it create. It's also called vibe coding, right? So we'll talk a little bit about vibe coding, chaos coding, etc., right, and what that looks like. But effectively, that is kind of what I'm talking about in this video. I'm talking about vibe coding something. So CLINE is extremely easy to set up. Okay, so let's just quickly go through the setup process. So I'll just go on Visual Studio Code, right? And then we'll just go new window here. And then all you need to do is click on extensions, type in CLINE, right? And you can also use RuCline, by the way. A lot of people like RuCline. I personally use CLINE. I haven't actually tested out RuCline, which is kind of crazy. I might actually just install it, to be honest with you, because I do want to test it at some point. So we have, you can either use CLINE or RuCline. They look pretty much exactly the same, as you can see. They're literally exactly the same. And then once you've got CLINE or RuCline, depending on which one you want to use, you want to click on the second button here. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about API limiting, right? So API limits. This is I always get comments about API limits on my videos, okay? If you are getting limited, right, by the Anthropic API, you need to use something called OpenRouter. OpenRouter should allow you to use as many, and you can actually see, Jesus, it's the biggest tool by far on OpenRouter. So OpenRouter, if you just go up here, you type in Claude, Anthropic, whatever, 3.7, right? This is self-moderated. I don't actually know what that means, so we'll just type in Claude again. We'll just go for the normal one. And then you can get an API key here, right? So API, create API key, top up, etc. And then instead of using Anthropic's system, you can just go here, go to openai, or sorry, where is it? Or OpenRouter, right? And put your API key here. This should stop you from getting rate limited, right? We personally here at craft agency and also Harbor SEO and everything, we have insane rate limits. So we do not have to do this. Okay. By the way, if you want to work with us, there'll be a link in the description to work with us. We do SEO, we do backlinks, etc., etc. So yeah, I'm going to use Anthropic here, and I'm going to use Anthropic on both plan and act mode. What you could do if you wanted on plan mode is you could enable extended thinking, right? Or we could put the thinking model on, which I believe I just have anyway. And what that means in plan mode, we can say, please plan from A to Z the entire project so that the next part of the process will know everything. This includes any SQL, navigation, or anything else that is required to understand from the beginning what you will need to do until the very end of the project. Okay, so we'll press done here. That should then be saved, right? This is now set up to use. I'm on plan mode, okay? So let's talk a little bit about plan and act, right? So we've set it up now. We've got it ready to go. The really nice thing about CLINE is the plan mode, okay? I cannot tell you enough how much I enjoy using plan mode. So one thing we can actually do, right, is if I wanted to, for example, edit a GitHub project, okay? You can do that with this project, okay? With this system. So I'll just go for my Shopify automation. It doesn't really matter what we edit here, but let's say that I wanted to edit my Shopify automation system, right? So we'll go to terminal, new terminal, and we'll do git clone and paste this, and then write like, I don't know, CLINE project, right? So that'll clone that. And then we do file, open folder. We look for CLINE project, which is, where is it? It's in income, maybe. Oh, I'm in desktop, aren't I? So we'll go file, open folder, we'll go to desktop, and then we'll look for CLINE. Okay, so we found CLINE project, right? Let's select this, okay? So this is my project, right? But let's pretend I don't know anything about coding. I don't know what any of this means, right? So now we can go here, we can press act, and we can say, please read my project and understand it in full, right? And then press enter. So this is really, really cool because you can very easily and quickly edit a project, right? So an already existing project. So let's just, we'll let this run for a little bit. So it's just examining various files, various folders. Good, perfect. And then eventually it'll get to the point where it understands the project and we can then make changes to the project, right? So we'll just let this finish. Okay, so you can see here, Product Manager with Claude 3.7 and Shopify Integration Project Analysis. I've analyzed your project files and can provide a comprehensive overview of the system architecture, key components, and functionality. This is a well-structured Flask correct application that integrates Claude 3.7 for AI-powered product tagging and Shopify for e-commerce integration with multi-store support. Correct. Okay, perfect. So now what we could do if we wanted, right, is we could say, okay, so I want you to add, I want you to make the project look nicer, as right now it's just a base application, right? So let me just show you. I'll just let it plan. And I'll say new terminal. And I'll say pip install. And I could even ask CLINE how to do this, but I'm just going to do it because I know how to do it. So pip install -r requirements.txt, right? This is how you run all Flask applications. I could ask CLINE how to do this, but yeah. And then we'll do Python app.py. Again, I could have just asked CLINE how to do this, and it would have told me as well, right? So this is what it looks like in the moment. So let's say I want it to look nicer, because right now it just looks absolutely trash, right? So we'll just let this plan a little bit. It's just planning, blah, 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 make some changes. Okay, good, right? Very, very nice. This is what I love about plan mode, right? It's basically unlimited. You can get it to the point where it completely understands the project, and then you can press act. Now I also, right, while this is doing this, I'm going to talk about something else. I also recommend doing this when you start a new project as well, right? So just while that's running, let's talk a little bit about starting a new project and how I personally like to do it, right? So if I'm doing something like a Next.js project, which, let's be honest, most people will be doing some kind of either Next.js project, React project, maybe Python slash Flask potentially, or you might be doing something like PHP, HTML, JavaScript, CSS, right? That's also a possibility. Generally speaking, I would say most people are going to be doing Next.js projects, right? Just because that's the way the internet is these days. I'm not saying that's good or bad or whatever. I'm just saying most people will probably be doing Next.js projects. So what I personally like to do, which is not always the thing that people do, obviously, is the steps I like to do is create the project first, then allow clients to read the project, then plan the project, then act, switch to act mode and let it run. Now, just before we continue, there is something that I forgot to mention on the setup, right? It's this part here, the auto approve. I really, really recommend auto approve. It's great. You can literally leave it, go to sleep, come back the next day, and it will actually have completed everything for you. So I like to put everything on, and I like to put max requests on 100. You might want to do more than 100. It's totally up to you. But yeah, just this is a very, very important part of this process, right? So just be aware of that. I definitely recommend using auto approve because it just makes your life a hell of a lot easier. So let's say that we were doing a new project instead. So we'll click on CLINE here, and also another thing we do need to talk about is iteration prompting, which I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So we'll just put iteration prompting right here. What is it, iteration prompting? How do I use it to make my kind of my projects, right? So iteration prompting is start with a basic prompt, edit the prompt based on output, and then finally have a final one-shot prompt, right? So this is iteration prompting. You start with a basic prompt that you've just generated yourselves, just from your own knowledge, right? Every time you see a mistake on the generation, you then edit or add to the prompt based on the output, right? So one thing that often happens with these projects is, this is just an example, right? I made this website using CLINE. One thing that often happens is it's not mobile friendly. I'm sure this one is mobile friendly, but oftentimes it can scroll or it's not mobile friendly. Or another example is a lot of things 404, right? So if things are 404ing, that's obviously less than ideal. So here we go, there's a 404 exactly, right? So what I then added to this prompt is, through iteration prompting, is make sure not to 404 anything and make sure to make everything mobile friendly, okay? So that's kind of what I mean by iteration prompting, okay? And then you have a prompt that is capable of creating as many of these websites as you want, right? Because it's just going to get everything right the first time because you have iterated and improved on the prompt so much that you've now got something that works first time, okay? Okay, so what does one of these prompts actually look like? Let's just go to docs.new here and we'll go to probably my service-based website prompt because it's actually a very, very simple prompt, right? Let's just go through this prompt and if I just go to file, hang on, let me just go back. Let me find the original one. So service prompt. Yeah, okay, so this is what I mean by iteration prompting. This is the original prompt that I used, right? You can see it's 3 of 3, and it's slightly shorter than this one, for example, okay? Okay, so I'm struggling to find the actual original file for this, but this was not as complicated as it was, as it is now, okay? It was much less complicated when I first started. So for example, what kept happening, I'll give you another example of iteration prompting, right? What kept happening was on some of these pages, what it would do is it would just have 2 blocks and then the footer, right? or 3 including the header, right? So header, let's say hero image, I don't know, this would be like 3 icons. I don't know what you would call that. So we'll just call it div, and then footer, right? And what I was seeing was this wasn't ranking as well on Google because this isn't enough information. So what I added was for service plus location pages, try your best to create a modular, you can use SVG icons to make this work, setup with at least 5 to 7 different vertical unique blocks that add to the overall value of the page. This is important because these are pages we are truly trying to rank, and if they don't have enough good, unique information on them, they won't rank. Ensure they are as varied as possible by using templates, right? So this is what I mean by iteration prompting. This is a fundamental skill that you'll have to learn in order to make this work, okay? Because it's so important, I can't understate it. Now, another thing that I really like to do on CLINE specifically is this here, right? So what I love to do, I absolutely love CLINE for this. I think CLINE is the best at doing this. Is number one, use the images in an intelligent way to build a modern website with good coloring schemes and fonts and other elements, which I will leave up to your discretion to plan and then implement a good, intelligent color and font and feel to it, right? This part of the prompt, right? And people say I don't know how to prompt because I don't write properly. I'll tell you right now, AI doesn't care if you use correct grammar. Okay, just get out of your heads right now. It really doesn't matter. What this does is it allows CLINE to plan and then implement its own color scheme, right? So instead of saying use this, use that, use this, blah, 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 which takes ages, by the way, instead, I'm just leaving it up to CLINE, okay? So like I said before, I like to create the project. So you're inside a new Next.js project. It's inside this directory, CD inside the directory. Also, I'm on Windows, so don't use @ because it doesn't work. I want to create a new Next.js project statically generated. You're already inside a Next.js project. And what I like to do as well is I like to add images to the project before even starting, right? So if I just go new window here, I just need to look for some kind of Rolls Royce or New York plumbing or whatever. If I go on public, right, and then images, what I actually like to do at the very beginning of a project like this is I like to add images to the images folder, okay? And I like to call those images by their name, right? So the AI will then know what these images are. And just to show you what this looks like after you've done it, you can see that what actually happens is it uses the images in a very, very intelligent way that normally you would have to plan this, you'd have to have a Figma, you'd have to do this, you'd have to do that, you'd have to do the other. And instead, what this does is it creates one of these websites very quickly, very easily. It can be a service-based website. It can be basically anything, right? It could be a blog. It could be anything. So this is the really, really powerful thing about CLINE is that it has this intelligence level, and it's really, really good to use with Claude 3.7 Sonnet, right? So you're inside a fresh Next.js project, and there are already images inside public images. It is a service-based website for a company that offers these services, right? So these are the services. The website should be in languages, right? So if you noticed before, that one had Spanish and English. This one, the one I made for my old boss, which I'll just show you guys, which is also ranking on Google, by the way, has English and also Italian, because obviously they're in Italy. And if I just show you, you can see a lot of these pages are indexed already, which is great. It still could be more, but you know, it's very, very easy to make one of these websites, right, using this methodology. So the website should be in languages, and the website should be properly split with href language tags before the main slug of the URL, for example, example.com/fr/example/example. Again, CLINE is extraordinarily good at following these kind of instructions. I don't tell it how to do this, it just knows how to do this, right? Use the images in an intelligent way, which already talked about this part of the prompt. Use service information to understand specifics of the business. For languages, ensure to implement the SEO and keywords, etc. for both languages and not just one of the languages. Also, URL slugs should be translated. This again is iterative or iteration prompting, because originally what it was doing was it was adding if I go here, yeah, so you can see it's actually, this was before I iterated, it seems, because it says /es/about, right, which is wrong. And what I did afterwards, if I go on Rolls-Royce rent it, which was very well iterated upon, you'll see that says compleanni, right, which is birthday in Italian. So that's the difference. This has been iterated on, okay, and you can see that instead of saying birthdays, it now says compleanni, right, because that's a part of the iteration, step by step. The idea is to generate all possible pages combining both services with locations to create location-based SEO services. We already talked about this here. Ensure the pages are split by service. So no two service landing page should look the same, even if the service plus location page do look the same. Make sure the colors are contrasting and not white on white or black on black at any point. This had to be added because it kept doing white on white or black on black. The content of those pages should be landing pages for the service itself, created from a template that you have built using the images and the other information you know or can interpret from what you've been given. Have a good looking contact page with contact details on it. Ensure to create a phenomenal modern homepage for the website using the images and information about services to make a modular, mobile friendly homepage, right? And then the rest of it is just services. And then there's this little bit at the bottom. This is like my iterative prompting, but over kind of 6 months almost. So these are all the things that I've noticed that CLINE or whatever get wrong frequently. And I do use a specific Next.js version. So I install the Next.js version first, and then I use that Next.js version and make sure the CLINE knows that I'm using that Next.js version. So let's just quickly jump back and see what happened here. You can see it did exactly what I asked it to do, right? I didn't do anything. I didn't tell it to do anything. I literally just said, make it look nicer. You can see it's done exactly that. It does look nicer. It's no longer just a base project, right? And then in terms of the new project, right, all you have to do is, let's just go new window. This is the final part of the video, guys, that I'll just very quickly show you. So we'll go new terminal here, and I'll just go to ChatGPT, and I'll say, make me a new Next.js project, and then I need to give it the specific Next.js version that I like to use. This will give me a terminal. No. Give me the terminal command mate. So then we copy this, right? And then we paste, bang. Probably already have something called my next app, to be honest with you. Oh, I don't. So then we'll scroll up here. Let's just change this. By the way, you can do file, make a copy. You'll find this prompt in the description of this video, but file, make a copy if you want to change it. So we'll just change this to, what is it? My next app. So my next app. And then we go to CLINE. We say plan, and we paste it like that. We allow it to do all of the planning, all of the process. Actually, let's just cancel that. First, we need to open the folder. The reason for that is because that puts you inside the correct directory. So it should be here. There it is. Yes, trust these authors. Now we go to CLINE, and then we paste this, and we press enter, right? So now it'll plan the entire project, and then we literally do exactly the same. We just press act, and then it will create the entire project for us. This is a basic guide to using CLINE. This is how I use CLINE. I like to plan, I like to act. I find CLINE by far the best of these code generation tools. I find it better than Cursor. I find it better than basically everyone, right? It's by far the best, in my opinion. I'll leave the video there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As you can see, it's done a really, really nice plan here. You can see it's still planning. So it has the Italian, the homepage, the service pages, main region, individual cities, service plus location, tailwind, all of that good stuff. This is exactly what I wanted. I'll leave the video there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching all the way to the end of this video, you are an absolute effing legend. And I'll see you very, very soon with some more content. Peace out.